All right, guys. Good morning. It is
Morning.
confession time. um, we are here to share our journey. 100 pounds collectively. We're targeting 100 pounds in 6 months, and we're just kind of sharing. Every week we go. It's not live really, but we publish the episode and we give you an update on where we are. Thank you for being here. Thanks for following the content. Um, and I know we have a couple things lined up for today. Last six episodes, we've shared the good. Today, I think it's the time to share a little bit of the bad too, because this is kind of how this journey works. Um, so thanks for being here. Congratulations if you're sort of joining along. But today we have a couple things lined up. So one is the last time we've talked about. Joanna mentioned like menopause and the way our diet is affecting your menopause, pre-menopause states. So if you're interested in that, please check out episode number 6. She'll have a quick mention in terms. I know you wanted to make some comments in
It's a little
terms of
recap, yeah.
yeah. So we won't be pulling it up, but you'll have an opportunity to say that. And then we wanted to go through. I originally called it 7 rules. It's not really rules. It's more of a tips or tricks or just things that we historically found that are benefiting us. So we felt like it's important to kind of share those because I know they will help you along tremendously. Um, so that is really it. Do you want to mention the last episode before we tap into the main subject
Yeah,
today?
yeah. I just want to let everybody know. So last episode we talked about the female hormones, how it all works together with your brain, along with your ovaries, all the hormones that take place. The one thing that I want to stress is going into your 40s into six and up to 60s, we're going through this major change. In order to ease this major change, fasting and glucose, controlling your sugars, will help you minimize the symptoms of all of this. Intermittent fasting is the best way for us middle-aged women to actually eat, and to lose weight, and controlling the insulin in your body will help you regulate how everything functions, and for your hormones to fully work at its highest potential that it can at this time of your life. All of this insulin, cortisol are the things that affect it all, and by affecting it, we will then see more symptoms of this menopause. So keep on fasting, keep looking at what you're eating. It's going to make this time of life easier for you mentally and physically. That's the important thing out of all of this.
All right, cool. Yeah, thanks for clarifying. Before we actually go into the 7 things that we have listed, we have to revisit the numbers and talk about last week because
Correct.
this is going to be very interesting. So I have mixed feelings about this one. I have a love hate relationship with today's episode just because our numbers went up. And just for context, so every other month, sometimes monthly, Joanna flies out. It's job related. So it's that week where we sort of step out of our regular sort of a protocol of just things
Yeah.
to do day to day. So that includes dropping her off to the airport, bringing her back last night. Me taking over the task with the kids in school and whatever. So life is busy. You guys know how it works. Um, so this was a different week for us. We know that those weeks are affected. What's interesting is that like I know that a lot of times, at least this was in my personal experience, I always think that I'm like almost staying, kind of doing the same thing. But then we like to look at numbers. I love to look at the proofs and the numbers and the analytics because your opinion may be different from the reality, right? It's really important to just kind of track numbers and then just kind of respond to those. So it was a different week for us, not a typical one. Let's look at numbers. I'm gonna switch over to our standard screen here. So my weight for this week 258.4. So I actually went up, and I went up. If we're gonna look at this number here, if you guys can't see, let me see. You can see the spike. So I went up from 254.8 to 258.4, so 3.6. So, and that's totally fine. This is almost expected. I mean, obviously, nobody wants to see the numbers. I actually have my sort of personal outlook on this is that this is kind of where people usually abandoned any sort of uh, right way of eating, right? Because what happens is not only we had a different week, it was a super busy week. You feel a little deflated. I'm more tired. I didn't sleep as well. Last night, Joanna came back. Flight was delayed. We got home. We were in bed. I don't know. I think I fell asleep at like 1:30 or something in the morning. So that's not typical. Now, to say, did we gain weight? The number went up on the scale, but I know for most part it's water retention because I know the way of eating for me at least didn't change that much. So, but if and I mentioned that in previous episodes, if I like trigger my sleeping and it's all over the place, and I'm not staying exactly on kind of the things that I wanted to do day to day, the weight, the number on a scale will change, which it did. So it's sort of expected. But like I said, the combination of like our goal changing and not going in the right direction, and this week being kind of all over the place, very often in the past at least, I would use that as sort of my excuse to like not do it again, which I know very well right now. I just need to continue to go in the same direction, and we'll check the numbers again next week. But this is what it was for me. For you, you're at 194.6.
Correct. I went up. I went
We,
up 5 pounds. Um,
all right.
am I happy? Of course not. But you know, it's not the end of the world. Things like this will happen. Number one, ladies, with your cycle, you will gain some weight. Number two, I was traveling. I was good the day that I traveled. And then every day at work, there was something going on, food everywhere, which I'm not used to. From donuts to different types of sandwiches to anything that your heart can imagine was there, out there, constantly in the open. Um, it's not an excuse, but our brain goes, hey, one will be okay. This is the result of one bad choice. I did stick to my hours, so I ate at my 18:6. I think only one day it was 16:8,
Yep.
which is okay too. But that one bad thing a day adds up to all this. Am I worried? Is this true weight? Like Marcin said, it's not. It's a combination of inflammation and not drinking enough of water for all these days
Yep.
and not being in my routine. Is this going to go out? Yes. I expect that by Tuesday or Wednesday, I'll be back to my regular weight. It just sucks for now, but this is what it is. Please don't be discouraged by it. Just continue going. Continue, jump right back into your schedule, jump right back into your foods, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And
And
just keep
I'll
going.
and I'll add to that just because I noticed, like you mentioned, there's like there could be like bad food around or whatever, a donut or whatever. By the way, I had a cookie. I didn't say that. So in terms of making a full confession, we went to Moe's, and right next door they have a crumble cookie, which is the best. And I had a cookie with the girls. But the thing is, it's not really the cookie that adds up. It's really for me sometimes when I even switch. Let's say I eat my regular food. Typically there's meals that are repetitive, right? Like for most part, we eat the same stuff
Yes.
every week. But even if I switch from the foods that I eat normally during a week to, let's say, another like healthier alternative, if we go to like Moe's, you were at Chipotle's, even switching over to like different foods does this whole water retention with me, because it's not like you've gained 3 or 4 or 5 pounds of fat with one cookie. it's the water that's sitting there. But I've noticed my body reacts this way. Like it just kind of stores more water. And then, like you said, for you, I think, and me, it's pretty much the same thing. It usually takes 3 days, like
Yeah.
2 3 days, for the body to normalize. So we'll look at the numbers last week. This is where we are right now. So we both had spikes just because of the week, not an excuse to drop off. We're going to continue to go, but that's where we are. Good with numbers. Can we move on to the main topic?
I just want to say one more thing. So again, tying it back. So for me personally, again, I was out at my job a little bit more stressed than I'm used to. My sleeping pattern was completely off. I was gone
Yeah.
for a week. I wasn't sleeping the hours that I normally sleep. I was sleeping an average, I think, of 6 hours every night. I just couldn't sleep. Um, on top of it, I didn't do my walk one day because of the stress, the cortisol going up, the inflammation. My back, I was out with my back for one day. Um, so a lot of things happening, and this is the result, ladies, of happening. Us women are completely more affected than men are. So if you're not sleeping, your cortisol goes up, your insulin goes up. These are the results that are to be expected. Learn from what has happened and continue on. Like I know now that even though if I get stuck at the airport for 4 hours, it does not matter. Don't go for the food. You'll just cause yourself harm. I can fast on my way there. I can definitely fast on the way back. No
Yeah.
excuses.
Yeah, correct. All right, cool. So we've covered the numbers. We're moving on to the main topic. But before we move into the seven, like I said, it's not rules. You guys call it whatever you need to call it. But the 7 tips. I
Yeah.
just wanted to highlight one thing that the way I think of it, and I've said it in more than probably one episode already. The way I look at it is that I use this 20-80-80 rule, right? So what 20% of my daily activities will get me 80% of the results, because this is pretty much kind of how it works. Some people call it like med, which is minimal effective dose. Like, what's the very least I can do that will bring the most results, right? Because then after that you can tune it and you can get better results, but it's also tied to diminishing results. So it's like, yeah, you can do more, but the gains are so minimal that it's like you're trying to then figure out, is it really worth doing the extra steps to gain an extra zero point 0.2 pounds or something, when it costs you like time or aggravation or whatever it is. So the things that we're going to share with you, implement them if you can. I know, like, we know that they help, but don't feel like obligated that you have to now integrate all of those 7 tips into your life. Like, if you can take one and use it, it'll definitely help you, but don't feel like you need to fully commit and have those things integrated. So I'm gonna have to switch screens, I think, here, and let's take a look at sort of just high level. Can you see it okay on your end? I just want
Looks
to.
good.
Okay, cool. So we have 7 tips, and some of them you guys already have heard about. Some of them are going to be new. And we have number 1 is the eating window. We're pretty much familiar with that. Number 2 is your caloric goal. So we kind of have to know where we're with our calories. Just some people, no awareness, or maybe negligent, or maybe never looked into, never measured the calories. So we kind of have to directionally know where we're going. Protein, super big deal. Satiety, this is where we're going to talk about like food that kind of makes you full. So that's all like choices. Drinking calories, liquids, alcohol, sodas, things like that. And then snacking and repeating your meals. So those are the 7 tips. We're going to dive in. I propose that maybe I introduce the first one, and then if you have anything to add, you can just chime in. Is that cool?
Right, that sounds good.
All right.
Let's do it.
All right. So very first one, you guys already know about this. The eating window. This is adjusting the eating window to your schedule. I know a lot of times, like, we sort of preach this thing of selecting your eating window, But here's the one thing that I also wanted to introduce and help you understand, because a lot of times we try to keep the same amount of hours every day. And what's really nice about it is that it's always easier to not eat when you're either busy or you're sleeping, right? That's the easiest part of the day, because you don't really have to think about it. So when you guys think of, like, if you have a busier day, maybe you can shift your hours, and I'm not saying do it all the time, but maybe there is like a one day of the week when you have a lot of things going on, whether it's busy at work, maybe kids have responsibilities, like I know in our case, with you, you're going with like kids and attending karate. It's a longer
Yeah.
day, you have things going on, like I have days at work that are more busy than other days. So one thing to remember is that when, let's say, you're on a 16:8 eating window, if you trade with yourself and shift 1 hour or 2 hours, and make that window longer on one day because it's just more busy and you don't really have time to eat, it's perfectly to it's perfectly fine to do that trade, as long as you're kind of not all over the schedule and it's changing and shifting every day, right? So if you can look at the pattern of every week and say, yeah, my Tuesdays are super loaded, I rarely have time to like even focus on the meal, you can also do that. So, and the same thing comes with, like, a lot of times I know I've struggled with that at the beginning when I set my windows, and I think I've had it from whatever time in the morning to like 5 o'clock. But Joanna and the kids, like, they would eat a little later, like literally at 5:30 or 6, and I
Yeah.
was constantly colliding into this like dinner window. I'm like, well, I mean, hours are hours, but like, kind of sucks that I can't sit down and eat with you guys. So it's the same thing. It's like, let's say Friday is your family dinner or whatever, or maybe it's 2 or 3 times a week. You can adjust your hours again, as long as you're consistent, and say, okay, on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday we have family dinner, and I want to participate in the family dinner. And then on those days you can shift your window to then start eating later, so that you can finish eating later. Does that make sense?
It does. It does make sense. I do want to add, so from maybe last episode and further on, I am going to start talking to my ladies that are in their midlife range now, from the 40s to 60s. Um, Again, Marston is 100% correct. You, my ladies, were a bit off. Yes, please pick your hours. Please stick to them. But it's actually good for our ladies our age to push that window once, let's say once a week. You're very busy, push your 16 hours to 18 hours. If you're
Mhm.
at 18 hours, push it to 20 hours. Keep your body guessing. We need that. We absolutely need that. I personally try to do 24 to 36 once a week. This only just keeps my body gassing and cleans out my inflammation in my body, which I absolutely love. So I'm not telling you to do a 24-hour. Please don't. You're not going to feel good. But push yourself an hour once a week or twice a week if you're busy. It's okay. If you're not going to have time to eat your first meal at 11, okay, 11 o'clock because you have a doctor's appointment, that's okay. Go to your doctor's appointment, be busy, come back, eat then. You just pushed your window and kept your body guessing.
Yeah, cool. Next one is caloric goal. So we did spend some time like figuring out our fat mass and lean mass, and how many calories we should be eating. I believe it's episode. I know I'm going to guess a wrong number, but I think we did it
I think
maybe in number
4.
4. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and again, we're not asking anybody to specifically measure down to, like, a calorie in terms of what you should be eating, but you should be directionally correct. So when you calculated your numbers and you arrived at whatever number, for some people it's going to be 2,000, for some people it's going to be 3,000 or more, depending on your activity, and kind of where you are right now. It should be more of a goal. It's kind of like with this losing business. We need to set the goal to be realistic, and with calories also, we have to make sure that we're not overeating by a lot. So if you miss your goal by 200-300 calories, it's not a big deal, but you should understand kind of what you're eating. So it's not, don't treat it as a hard limit that you have to hit it. A lot of times when we talk about calories, we feel like we have to be down to like a
Yeah.
calorie. That's not the case. The goal should be really to like lose every week, to lose like a 1% for maybe for guys. For women it's actually lower. I believe it's like 0.5%, which is not a whole lot, but it translates into like a pound a week, which is absolutely healthy way to do it. With
Mhm.
50 weeks, it's do the math. It's 52 pounds in 1 year. So and that's a really doable, achievable goal. So that's what I think in terms of calories. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Yes. So my ladies, keep your calories natural, and actually this goes to men too. So not all calories are the same. That's very important. A calorie from a donut is completely, your body will look at it completely different and do different things with it than the calories that you're going to take from eating the same amount of, let's say, broccoli, or the same amount of any natural God made food, you could say, or nature made food. Um, it- go for those calories instead of going for processed calories.
Yeah. Again, window is really the priority, right? We're not trying to battle with calories at this point. We have to be directionally correct. Take care of your window of eating. That's one thing, and then I want you to remember a lot of folks when they go from just eating anything to now trying to like lose weight. The change is too dramatic. So they go from not caring about any calories to like suddenly they're forced into measuring and weighing
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's totally not doable, right? So again, it's a very high level. What's the calorie burn for you on a daily basis, and just try to stay around that limit, right? Because we just have to. We're basically saying if you're at 2,400 calories a day, you shouldn't be pounding donuts and be at 4,800 intake, right? Because it's gonna be super hard for you to burn that off, even with your windows or whatever. So we have to be directionally correct, but not super precise. Um, the next one is protein. I think that one is very often either misunderstood or overlooked. But the things about protein is I've listed here. It's the high satiety, meaning it makes you feel full. It's the higher burn rate. So
Mhm.
actually, protein when it enters your body uses more calories, burns more calories to process protein. So that's a big one. It's muscle. It helps with building muscles.
Mhm.
So it's that component that it's a lot of like the weight lifters, power lifters, or whenever you want to get toned, protein is sort of essential. So that's very important. And then I know a lot of people talk about like goals in terms of how much protein you should be eating, and a lot of what I like read and have seen out there is basically they say 1 gram of protein per pound of your weight. Is that true? Did I say that right?
I
Yeah,
right now I don't
yeah,
remember.
yeah. And it's fine, and
Yeah.
it's fine. So, but the when you're starting, especially when you're overweight, it's totally okay to because it's a lot. If you're thinking about it, like
Mhm.
when I say if you're 200 pounds, I'm going to use an example. If you're 200 pounds and it's 1 gram of protein per pound of your body, you're talking about 2 pounds of meat. Let's say 2 pounds of beef or 2 pounds of chicken. That's a lot of meat, especially and if you're not used to eating that much protein. It's not something that like again, it's like the caloric thing. It's like
Mhm.
you have to understand that protein is important and you should prioritize protein when you're eating, it shouldn't be necessarily 2 pounds. A lot of people, what they do is like a good start would be, let's say I'm 200 pounds, but I want to go to 250. My protein goal should be 1 gram of my goal weight. So it should be 1.5 pounds of protein. So you can use that as your sort of target, and you're going to be good. But like I said, protein just in general, it's super important. It makes you feel like you're full. A lot of times with my breakfast, protein is critical. A lot of times, what I do in the morning, I uh, I I I reach for leftovers a lot of times. So for me, it's not uncommon to like have steak from the night before or chicken the night before. Sometimes you do pork or with eggs. That's super popular in our house. So that's I think that's what I have. Not sure if you wanted to chime in on that one as well.
So, uh, just like Marcin mentioned, remember, we keep talking that your body, in order to have energy, needs glucose. Protein does not have glucose, but your body then works hard on changing, which means burning. It has to work actually to start to get that sugar out of your protein. That's why protein is so good. It's filling, and it actually makes your body work in order to get the energy that it needs. I also want to mention that it does protein. All your protein does not have to come from meat. It can come from seeds. It can come from your full fat Greek yogurt, awesome for protein. Your beans, protein also comes from hummus, from cheese. Nuts I mentioned, and seeds is a big one. I put seeds on my cottage cheese because it has a lot of protein, and I eat all my veggies with hummus. So that's how I sneak the extra protein into my everyday meals.
All right, cool. The next one, number four. I think I lost count, but I think it's number four. Is the foods that keep you full. This is the
Yeah.
satiety again. So I already mentioned proteins, but what we also need to bring up is the fibers, which are critical, right? I think the recommendation for guys is daily dosage. I believe it's 40 grams. For women, it's lower. It's around 25 to 30. So that's super important. And solids when you're eating vegetables. The one thing I wanted to say about fiber, because I know it's a lot of times misunderstood. So the fiber, when we're talking about our gut, when we're eating fiber, probably a lot of people already heard like fiber is important. Eat a lot of fiber, but there's a difference between, especially when we're talking about processed food. I'll use apple for example. Fiber from just eating an apple is not the same fiber as eating diced apple, and it's also not the same as eating like an apple,
Applesauce.
like an applesauce. And the difference
Yeah.
is really the fiber, the way it helps us. And Joanna can probably riff on this one, but it basically lines it helps it it prevents fast digestion. Does that make sense?
Yes. So
So it aligns your pipes on the inside. And the tricky thing about fiber is that when it's heavily processed, it loses that capability. So think of it like a spider web that kind of lines your pipes inside, and then when the food travels through your pipes, it helps with it prevents absorption, right? So that's why it's important. But the thing about it is when the fiber is heavily processed, like the applesauce, it's just chopped into little pieces. So if you imagine spider web or like fish web, if you cut it into little pieces, you basically lose that capability of fiber protecting you. So that's why stay away from processed foods. Anything else that you wanted to add here?
yeah, so two things. Ladies, again, sometimes I look at new research, new everything. Our fiber intake actually was increased, and we need quite a bit of fiber, especially in our middle age. Again, it's for that mash that Marcin was talking about. to be created and to less glucose to get through it. We don't want to create those spikes, those insulin spikes, and those are formed with no mash. It just goes right through your gut, right into your bloodstream. So we want to create this mash before we eat, so we don't have these spikes. So then our hormones get a chance to do what they have to do and develop at the right times. So again, our fiber was increased to I at one point I even heard 44 grams, so a little bit more than men. Again, sneak in your fiber any way you can. Do it before you eat anything. I have my salad in the morning with um, a good fat, which is an olive oil, and with balsamic vinegar. Before I even eat my breakfast, which there's nothing wrong in my breakfast, but I make sure that I get that fiber in first.
All right, cool. Next one is liquid calories. This one was going to be pretty simple because it's either alcohol, well, juices, and then alcohol, juices, and sodas. Those are like the main three. I've read a study where they basically are showing that on average in US, a person's diet would consist 22% of person's diet or calorie intake would come from this just stuff that they're drinking. And like I said, it's the juices, it's the sodas, it's the drinks. So that's what it is. And if you think about it, it's like it's very often it gets a little tricky because very often there's a huge difference between drinking black coffee with 0 calories and drinking. We were comparing the other day in a different episode the drink from Dunkin' Donuts, your favorite, pumpkin something
Pumpkin.
lot. We
Yeah,
we were looking at the image of the drink, and it has
yeah.
180 128 grams of sugar. I mean, literally, the cup is,
Something
if you're
crazy.
looking at the cup, one third of it is just sugar. So it's like you're thinking you're drinking coffee, but you're really drinking sugar.
Yep.
Um, and I was looking at again at the numbers, 22%, just to translate that number. That's between like 150 to 250 calories. Typically come from your drinks. What I was planning on doing, which I think will probably help a lot of you guys, is the like I don't drink alcohol. Joanna drinks wine on occasions when we have guests over or people over. But I remember like when I used to drink alcohol, I was looking at the list of alcohols, and I can, if I recall correctly, if you're drinking heavy liquor is probably your best bet. I know that's probably not something that a lot of people want to hear, but if you're into liquor, things like tequila, tonic, and vodka are your best choices. And believe it or not, if you simply mix tequila or vodka with club soda and have a little lime in there, that's your best bet. I know it's not maybe the favorite, but if you're drinking alcohol, that's the way to go. Beers are probably at the bottom of the list. If you're a wine drinker, I remember when I was drinking wine, it would be usually red wine because the sugar content in white wines is much higher. So red wines, hard liquor. Not that I'm promoting hard liquor drinking, but I know it's fun. So just stick to that. What I'm gonna try to do is include. I had actually a pretty good reference, a list. I'm gonna try to upload it to our section files in the group. So you guys will be able to use that as your cheat sheet, and you can and that's it. I think. Anything from you on the liquid calories?
No, just keep track also of the sweeteners and stuff like that that you add to your water. If it's not natural, it might actually be increasing your sugar, and that we'll see in the graph that we'll go through that I tested myself
Yeah,
on.
from
Um,
Thursday. Yep.
yeah, so just keep an eye on that. That anything that you put, unless it's nature's food, it may affect you.
Yeah. And next one is minimize snacking. That one is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I know I mentioned it's even probably not the last episode, but episode maybe 5. It basically, so what's the name of the game? The name of the game is when we're talking about glucose and sugar and not having those huge spikes. Um, Anytime you put something in your mouth, you create spikes. Even even if you have a couple nuts, it still creates a spike. And like I said, name of the game is eliminate them or extend them. So two things to mention here: if you are snacking, try to limit your 3 snacks to down to 2 or down to 1. But if you're having a snack, also, I know this is something very common that Joanna is doing. She's actually adding her snacks to her meals. So when that happens, you're basically including a snack as part of one spike and not creating another spike for when you're measuring your glucose. Um, Anything I'm missing?
No, I again snacking. You guys keep it to a minimum, but if you do decide to go with snacks, go with whole foods, not processed.
Yeah. And the last one, this one pretty common. Like even if you're tracking, I know even on when I'm looking at like Joanna's shopping list, she literally brings the same foods. Like we think we eat we eat variety of foods, but like if you realistically are looking at the last 4 weeks of foods that you've consumed, it's very very repetitive, and that's a good news because you can almost optimize your meals. So when Joanna's shopping, and you can fill me in here, but when we're shopping, she almost, I'm not sure if there's a pattern, but we eat the same stuff. So we eat steaks with like a side dish. We have chicken every week. We have fish maybe every other week. I
Fish
know,
or
like,
shrimp. Yeah. We do some seafood every. So it's like it's in categories, right? Your red meats, your white lean meats, and your seafood. That's what we do.
right. And the meat, the dishes are repetitive. Not sure if they fall almost on the same days, but like when you go shopping, it's usually the same stuff. It's also nice because from like financial perspective, you almost kind of know what to expect. I know you're like keeping our budget, and it's very very repetitive every week. But this is really important for your body because, like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, your body reacts to any change. So even if you're switching over to different meals from week to week, your body develops this pattern of just like burning the same dishes, same meals, so it becomes habitual. But whenever you're switching, even though you may notice, you may switch to another healthier alternative, and you may have like a 2 pound spike, which is not really a spike; it's just your body adjusting with the water fluctuations. And so we try to stick to the same meals as much as we can.
Yeah, yeah. We do. We once in a while I'll bring in something new and try. But more or less it's the same. It's the same base.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And before, I know you wanted to talk about the. So this is, I think, this is it for the big seven. Like I said, just a reminder, you don't have to incorporate all of it. If you can grab one thing out of this list, it'll definitely help you. We're kind of all over the place week to week. Sometimes we have more protein, calories. We're just directionally correct. Um, the foods we're pay attention to, like what makes us full, liquid calories. We're not soda drinkers. A little bit of alcohol here and there. And with snacking, I know like that's probably my weakest point with snacking because I mentioned my nuts and yogurts and whatever, and I know you do the same. But we try
mhm,
to integrate those things as much as we can.
correct.
You wanted to talk about your Thursday before you do that because I know some people are listening to this on Spotify. Some folks are listening to Apple Podcast, or we just launched the YouTube channel. Um, it would be great if you guys could join us. It's more interactive in a group. It helps us with the feedback because we this way know what sort of content to provide. So I'm just posting the QR code so you can scan it and join a group. Um, and this way, like I said, if you have any questions, if you need assistance, if you get stuck like we did this week, you can always reach out to Joanna or myself, and we can help you get unstuck. Um, Back to the your chart from last Thursday. I'll hand it over to you. So what's going on here?
Yeah, I just want to mention, just go back 1 second, and want to mention one thing. We never really talked about water, because I think we assume that it's just natural. Everybody knows that they got to drink water, um, but your water intake is very, very important. An average for a woman should be 2.7 liters a day, and for a man 3.7. You could get more precise than calculating up to your weight, but ladies, try to get at least 2.7 liters of water every day, clean water, uh, and maybe with lemon, lime, or maybe some put ginger into there. I just talked to a friend of mine. She loves lemon and ginger in her water, or mint leaves. I do that sometimes, but just plain water. So women 2.7 liters, and men 3.7 liters. It will help you a lot in your losing the weight and getting rid of inflammation in your body. All right. So my chart. All right. So what I did was I started. I wanted to show you guys what I eat and how what it does with my sugar levels. So I started by testing the first thing that when I got up in the morning, to before going to bed. So as you see, I kind of, Marcin, can you go a little bit closer into the numbers, into the chart
Uh,
itself?
the chart itself. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see if this
Oh yeah,
is
like,
if this is
yeah, that's
better.
good. That's good. So if you notice, I started up a little bit higher in the morning, then I dropped down to my regular, more or less, level where I am at between like 95 to 105. That's usually where I fluctuate. So that's where I was. Then I had my first meal, so I had a spike of less than 30, and that's our goal.
Hmm.
Um, I went down. I then had some cottage cheese. I tested myself. I actually went down. So that means I missed a spike here somewhere, but mine going down was still less than 30. So I did not spike more than 30, but definitely a little bit more sugar there. And that was my cottage cheese with a handful of blueberries, along with some nuts, some seeds on top. At that point, I I wanted to test myself 15 minutes, and before that 15 minutes, in between that time of the low to high, I popped my vitamins in.
Wow.
My vitamin B12 is one of those chewable vitamins that's supposed to be better to take, if you don't want to swallow. It spiked my sugar up to 186, I believe.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, over 180 or
Wow.
183. I could not believe it. But that is
Yeah.
the only thing that I had that I've never tested. I just assumed it's good for me. It had xylitol in it, which is not a true sugar. But this is an example of how everybody's body is different. This is how I react to fake sugar. My body still thinks it's sugar and still creates, increases my insulin and does this.
Yeah.
Um, so I got rid of those vitamins.
Yeah, and this is I mean 180, 186 or 180, whatever that is, 184 or 2. Or actually no, it is higher, 186 probably.
Yeah.
This is why the continuous, which we don't use, continuous glucose monitors, right? But it would be nice to have one, right? Because you can test almost everything just ongoing. Anytime you put something in your mouth, you can just stick your phone next to it and just do the reading. Like I said, it's more on the expensive side, but if you can swing it, if you can afford it, I would definitely highly recommend it. We actually have to do it manually. So like Joanna just said, she never tested for it. She just assumed it's like B12 vitamin. Like how big is it? How much
Yeah.
harm can it do? And as you guys can see in her case, because not everybody's reacting the same way, it went super high. But then you dropped back to 100 relatively
Correct.
quickly.
Then I went back to my regular pattern. Then I
Yeah,
tested again. I tested before eating dinner. I had a big dinner, and if you see, it only went up a little bit. That spike from like a
yeah,
hundred, I believe 101, to a little spike, and then of course at night before going to sleep, it went up higher again. we're rushing to go to bed and getting the kids to bed. I want to get myself to bed as soon as possible, so it will increase your stress level, which cortisol goes up, which increases your sugar a little bit. But I'm still here. If you see, I'm still within my that 30 range. um, so doing this, I have just learned that my cottage cheese with a handful of blueberries and that keto mix, my body does not like. It puts me down. That's that slump that I feel, that going down pattern that goes a little bit lower than I like. And of course, I learned that for me, taking vitamins that have that, even though they say sugar free, but have any type of fake sugar, affects my sugar as well. If I wouldn't have those two, the low spike and the very high spike, I would say that I like the way that I eat and I'm doing my body good. It's not aging. I'm not forcing it to age if I get rid of those two spikes.
Yeah. All right, good point. Yeah, thanks for going through this. I think we're good. So, guess what? Back on track, back to work. Next week, we're going to look at numbers again. If you have any questions, maybe you are stuck. I always encourage you guys to reach out to Joanna or myself and let us know if you need help. Also, if you have any questions or comments about the stuff that we just went over, you can always leave a comment underneath the video. Um, and then I think we're good for this episode. So implement the 7 tricks, and I believe we're good for this week.
That's it. Keep fasting. If you can push an hour, push an hour. It will do your body good.
All right, guys. Thanks again for today, and we'll talk to you next week.
All
Have a
right.
good one.
Bye,
Bye.
you all.